Welcome in, everyone. This is our weekly flow recap for the week of 1/27/25 to 1/30/2025. As always, we're just going to kind of go over the flow, kind of go over what stuck out, kind of read some flow and all that. And for those that may just be joining, as always, I do post everything in real time. And that is all posted in here on Discord, and I do have some public plays that I'll post as well too. So again, just everything is always in here. Everything's posted in real time. I don't edit stuff, so you can always come back on at that if you need to, but let's get started here. So Monday, I don't have anything for the 27th. I was actually sick Monday, still kind of getting over it. So Tuesday, 1/28, we started off with these BA 221 195 calls. So let's go back here to Monday. So here is your original whale entry here at 229. So if we come back here, I'm going to actually drop this back down to the 28th here, and we can look at it that way. So you can see here's your original whale entry here. You can see 5,000 contracts coming in at 236 per contract for about 1.18 million. We look at the raw flow at the time. You can see as that flow started to come in here, you can see that uptick in that IV here. I'm always looking at that difference between that bid and ask. So this is a little wider spread on this one, so you can see that being filled right at the ask. So this is showing a little more aggression. We can see that IV coming up here. We see it drop a little bit here. Not a big concern because it's not a huge size that it dropped on. Still at the ask side too. And then we can see that IV also ticking up again too after that small drop. So that does look like a buy there. And you look at the time, this was that net premium on the day, a lot of net call premium. And later in the day here, we did have ended up turning into a multi-leg trade. But your original whale entry here, 236, you can see we ran up to a high here on the 28th of 390. So that's giving us a quick little 65.25% move there. And we did kind of almost hit high of the day there about 1, 2, 3 times there. So plenty of time to get out there. Gradual move down here. So something to kind of look at here as well. If we scroll down here. So we can see on the 20th we had 14,000 contracts traded. Only about 4,000 of those traded over. So it looks like we could have had some of that whale could have took off some of these profits in here. Little hard to kind of tell because we had that big multi-leg or big size mid-flow come in here. So kind of interesting there with not all of that carrying over, but that did make a good move for us. And if you zoom back out, and we're going to move this back to Friday. So again, that's why it's always important to kind of adjust your stops up because now these contracts are running down a little bit. But at the time, so those contracts moving 236 to 390, that was a pretty good move there, 65.25% there. All right, so next up we have the 131, 119 shop calls. These expired yesterday. So let's go back to the 28th here and look at how they came in. So here was your entry here. You can see we had 1,700 contracts come in here at about 58 cents per contract, a little over 100,000 in premium there. You can see when we look at the raw flow, you can see as that flow starts to come in here, that IV ticks up. And again, always looking at that bid ask and that spot there. So you can see that IV staying up that whole way. Fills all coming in at the ask. We look at the net premiums here, all net call premium, good call volume. And this one made a very nice move because if we go back to Friday here and we look, so here's your original entry here at, I had 58. It's going to show kind of an average because there's a lot of flow right there, but 68, we can see they ran up same day, hit 181 same day, kind of dropped a little bit the next day, but we hit the high of the week on Friday on expiration day. So those ended up hitting a high of 3 yesterday, actually. So that is a 417% gain on those ones. You're not going to probably hold to the top just with all that going on and them being weeklies. You're probably going to end up taking some profits same day. And if we kind of come back here and look, it actually does look like, come down here a little bit, we had 4,000 contracts traded on that day. And again, that whale, about 2,400 contracts. Can see about half of that carried over. Looks like they probably took some profits off here around that high of the day. So whale being smart, knowing that they're weeklies, something you should always be doing. But those running for a max return of 0.58 to a high of 417%. Next up, TSM. These ones were posted publicly as well. So if we come back here and look on the 28th, here is your whale entry. 3,600 contracts at 593 for 2.1 million. Come back here and look here. I like to bump the results down so I can see everything. So we come down here, and it's a very good example here. So we can see that IV. Keep an eye on the IV and that fill. So again, we see that IV, and this is a repeated hits descending fill, so this is a good example to look at as well too. So when you're coming up here, you can see we hit that. This is why it's considered a descending fill, because we have that drop in that spot price. But you can see we're very close to the ask still. We are still pretty much right there. It's one contract. It's nothing to really throw the trade away off based off of. And you can see that IV increasing as we come up here. You can see that spot price increasing as well. So we have an increasing spot and IV. This looks very good here. I mean, you can see that IV continuing to go up here. And there's a small little drop there again, so that's where you're getting that descending fill. But again, look where it's at on that spread. Very close to the ask. That doesn't, and it's only 3 contracts, not going to make or break the trade, especially when everything else, that IV is increasing still as we're coming up, and that spot price is increasing. So you can see that all the way up here. And you can see more of that coming in with that IV increasing there too. And we come back here. This one actually made a very nice move. Let's move this to Friday so we can see the full week. So this was that whale entry, 593. They ended up hitting a high of 1823 here on Friday. Those contracts moving 203.83%. And it looks like that most of that is still in here too for that whale. So something to kind of watch there. And you can see that net premium even over the last 7 days. Lots of net call premium there. A little net put premium there on that dip day, but majority of it's net call premium. So that's a good sign there. So moving on now. Then we have the YINN 321.31 calls. So these coming in on the 28th as well. Let's go back here and look at that. So you look at the 28th, clearly an opening trade. You can see on that day we only had 198 open interest contracts. Had about 750 come in there. We look at the flow. Again, you can see that IV increasing as it's coming in. Spot price increasing. Good sign of when the larger portion of that came in. We had a bigger spike in that IV as well. Repeated hits ascending fill right here. You can see that fill ascending as it's coming in. Premiums on the day at the time were kind of more flat. So moving on to Friday now. Oops, wrong one here. So if you bump this back to the whale entry, so 390 there, you can see we moved up here. We ended up actually hitting a high here of 6 on the 30th. So that was Thursday. So those actually hit a high of 53.85%, 390 to 6. It looks like Friday here, and we won't be able to tell for sure until Monday to see how much of this carries over, but looks like that whale may be taking some off the table here at 459. So taking some off from that 390 entry there. Have to check that out on Monday. So next up we had BIDU. These were on Wednesday the 29th. So come back here to Wednesday. Here is how that flow looked, 216. And this one looks like it was an intraday trade as well. So we had 600 contracts come in here. You can see based off that open interest on the day, clean opening trade. We look at the flow. IV looks good, stays the same. All ask side fills. And we can see these running from that 216 up to a high of, actually on the 30th, 435. But this one gets a little messy because it looks like we have about 230 contracts there, about 150 there, some more volume here. So it looks like this whale may have cut some here at 222 and then 246, and then the rest here at like 191, because we didn't have that full amount of volume carry over into the 30th. But if we come back here and look, so this was that original whale entry. If they did cut for a loss, it wasn't the best decision because these ended up hitting that high of 435 here on the 30th, so Thursday. And you can kind of see that here and then seeing a little more volume here. So it's starting to get a little messy here, but those contracts, it did make a full move from that 216 to 435. So that's 101.39% on those ones there. And this is why timing's always important with flow too, just because flow is always time sensitive. If a move has already been made, you don't want to chase flow like that. But moving on here, so gold, this was actually, let me come in here. This was actually our flow and charts trade for the week. So I had gold here. We had that large whale here on the 321.17 calls. And this is for those that aren't in the group. This is what I like. These are the trades that I'm taking. I have them kind of laid out. I have guidance on them. So you're kind of sitting here looking at that. We kind of looked at the overall flow here. I'll put up some charts and stuff there. So that gold flow looked great there. So these actually, I'm going to bump this back to 3 days. So this is when it was actually spotted at 41. But since these are posted at night, you have to fill these the next day. I filled a couple at 56, 57. These ended up hitting a high of 77. So from that 0.56 to 0.77, that's still a 37.5% gain. So that was my one trade I liked for the week. Again, I was sick this week, so I didn't get a lot out. Looks like most of this flow is still in here, and that whale's up. So moving on, CSCO, this whale was selling puts. So when we look at this now, this is a little different than ask side stuff. So we come in here, and you can see on that IV here, so that IV is kind of staying low. We kind of spike a little bit there, but that IV drops again a little bit there. IV continues to drop, and we're being filled at the bid side here. So you're not seeing a lot of aggression essentially, and that was a sell there to me. And again, you can see that whale filling those at 49. So when you're selling premium, you want those contracts to essentially go to zero. So that whale filled those at 49, or sold those at 49 technically. They're running at 39 right now. So that whale's collected about 20% of that premium right now. Again, theta is your friend when you're selling contracts. So I'll always tell people, like, if you're selling puts, that stock they're neutral to bullish on, because the stock could just stay the same price for a week and theta is going to eat the contracts away and they're going to buy the premium. So when you're selling contracts, different method, but that whale has collected 20.41% of that premium right now. Obviously 2 days of theta decay over the weekend. So up next we had the PDD calls. These ones made a nice intraday move as well. We'll come back here to the 30th. So these were Thursday. So here's your whale entry 60. We come back here and look at the flow. So this one a little hidden in here. So this one wasn't directly at the ask. So this is kind of where a little time in the market kind of helps you figure it out. Very big trade here. Pretty big bid-ask spread there too, and you're coming right almost at that ask, and you can see that big jump in that IV at the time. When you come back here and look, that net call premium was also pretty bullish on the day, so you can kind of add 2 and 2 together there. Let me come and look at Friday here. So these actually made a nice intraday move. It looks like that whale's still in for the most part, but they'd be down now. So those were filled at 60. They actually ended up hitting a high of 71 on the day. You can see that 71-ish in here. I mean, a little wider ask, so you would have been able to probably get a little wider there, but good little trade there for an intraday scalp if you were taking that. Whale looks to still be in, and if the whales are still in, again, you can do whatever you want with the information. I don't always recommend chasing if they're down so much, but again, do as you wish. But those contracts did hit our 15% at least move, so those hitting from that 60 to 71, that's 18.33%. Looking at C, again, good example here as to why you should always be adjusting up your stops. Here is your whale, 2,100 contracts, about 115,000 there at 54 for an average. Looking at the flow, again, when that flow starts to come in here, IV spike. Can see that ask side fill there. So you can see these contracts moving from that 54 and actually hit a high of 71 on the day. There, 71. I've got 72 for a high. So that's about 33% intraday there. And it looks like that whale's starting to sell these for a loss here at 39. So again, that's why I always tell people, always adjust your stops up. You need to have your own trading plan. You can't always follow these whales exactly. You got to be smart with the stuff. So, I mean, a 33% trade, that is a very good return. Shouldn't be letting that go red at all. So those contracts making that intraday move of 0.54 to 0.72, looks like that whale's cutting them there at 39. Next up we have WULF. These ones are not going to dive super deep into this. 34 days on them, looks like that whale's still in. Filled 2,300 of them at 0.47. Looks like they closed at 0.29 yesterday. So that whale's still in there, but those contracts are down about 38% there. And again, that's why I always tell people to have a plan. And again, XYZ here, again, a little more time on these, about 27 days. There's your entry, 936 contracts there. Majority of that carrying over. Looks like that whale's still in here at about 80. They're down about 37% on those ones. So XPEV now, so these are from Friday. We can bump this here. So these made a nice intraday move here. 2,000 contracts, 106,053. Hit a high of 72 on the day. You can see that here. So those moving 35.85%. Can see that net premium on the day spiking, the net put premium there. That call volume starting to tail off, put volume picking up. We look at the raw flow. Again, when these bigger block trades like this come in, you can't always read them fully, but at the time we had the other data to match for us. GLDs, this whale looks to still be in 446. This whale's down about 15% on these 446. Looks like we closed at 375, so yeah, down 15% on those. Whale still in 27 days. A lot of that net call premium there. Looks like we kind of picked back up a little bit towards the end of the day. LEN, again, these made a nice intraday move. Looks like that whale's still in though. So 271 was your fill there. These hit a high of 320 here. You can see that right there. So those actually moving about 18%. Looks like that whale's still in. Contracts closed about 225. So again, you can see a lot of that net call premium still there and that call volume. RSP, these made a good move. This will be an interesting one to look back at on Monday. Here is your whale entry. You can see right when that sweep comes in, spike in that IV, that fills right on that ask side a little bit more. Good premium there. Back out here, and obviously when that flow came in, big spike in the net put premium, good put volume. And we had some bid side action here after, so kind of want to see how much of this carries over, because this would be a total of 15,000 on the day. So if we have that 10,000 there and that whale cut 5,000 of them, should probably see this open interest only say about 10,000. Now if they added at the bid, this will say about 20,000, so you won't be able to see this till Monday. But these contracts making a good move intraday, 107 and hitting a high of 170 on the day. That's a 58% return there. PSX, again, a little longer term here, 48 days, 205. They closed at 185, whales down 9% there. Again, you can see that net call premium up there. Good call volume. We look at the raw flow again. IV stays up. IV spikes here a little bit at the end too as well. And you can see that spot being filled not right at the ask here at the end there, but majority on the ask side there. So see what happens with that one. And then Starbucks. These filled at 155. Good net put premium there. Good put volume. Can see the flow here. So again, kind of not a lot of IV there. Not a lot of contracts and all that, but you can see right when the bigger volume comes in here, that IV stays the same, no change. Ask side fills. And these did move from 155. They ended up closing at, well, they hit a high of 175 here, 173. But it looks like they closed at 163. So that whale's up on them a little bit. They only hit a max return of 11% on the day. But otherwise, a little shorter week. Again, was sick on Monday, so we're missing a day of flow. Otherwise, that is the flow recap. If you are interested in trying unusual whales, I have a discounted code in the description. If you're interested in joining Stock Hub, there's a code in the description. And again, if you've enjoyed these videos, all I ask is just please hit the like button to help share all that stuff. Have a great weekend, everyone.